Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming indoors on such a beautiful spring morning. Hope you're feeling musically inclined today. Is that this way or is that this way? There's a lot of participation that we'd love to have you help with a few songs, like right here. I got to sing this song when I first joined the Paul Winter Consort. It's been attributed to me over the years, but I didn't write it. A great Brazilian composer, Ivan Lins, wrote this samba tune. And you know, I think this would be a good time, you can fire me after this, is that the people lurking back in the corners and way back, if you would be brave enough to move up to some of the front pews, it'll look much better on the video. And we can make a bit more community if we come on up here and be with each other. It sounds great if we sit a little closer to each other when we sing together. Here's the chorus. In a circle of friends, in a circle of sound. This is being translated for the humor impaired. Try that. In a circle of friends, this means friends. In a circle, this means circle of sound. And then almost the same melody. All our voices, V for voices, voices will blend, mix it up, when we touch common ground. All our voices will blend when we touch common ground. Voices are calling round the earth. Music is rising in the sea. The spirit of morning fills the air, guiding my journey home. Where is the path beyond the forest? Where is the song I always knew? I remember it just around the bend. In the village, the music never ends. In a circle of friends, in a circle of sound, all our voices will blend when we touch common ground. Somewhere is the melody we need. There is a certain harmony, even a rhythm in the trees, in the song that we've always known. As every road comes to its end, so every path must cross again. when we touch common ground. We light a chalice as a symbol of our free faith. This chalice and flame is a symbol of our free faith, our free search for faith, we say, our free lack of faith, as some have put it. And it's symbolic of a great many things. On another Sunday, it might have an entirely different connotation. What it means for me today is that the earth is a vessel sailing on with a fire in its heart. The inside of the earth, someone told me, is virtually as hot as the sun. I believe it was on NPR. And if it's that hot on the inside, where are the flames on the outside? Well, we must be them. We are that energy force of earth, burning, oxidizing, green and blue and white if you see us from out in space, down here on the ground, fashioning from the earth this whole spectrum of color, providing this mysterious balance of peace and health and justice that we might call spirit. I like this word spirit, as you'll see. Wasn't that a good segue? I invite you to find hymn number 347 in this great gray hymn book of ours. One of my 2.5 songs I'm honored to have in this. And they made me older than I am, but most of the notes are right. I like to start halfway through and sing you the introduction with that last part of the song with the precipitous drop in the melody that happens. So I'll model that for you for an introduction. So that'll just be me and the people who weren't paying attention. And then we'll all start at the beginning. May we stand for this as willing and able. Gather in peace, gather in thanks. And I was kidding, you can sing too. Gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Join us at the beginning. Gather the Spirit, harvest the power, our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour, our trials in this light appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit of heart and mind. Seeds for the sowing are laid in store. Nurtured in love and conscience rewind, with body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit, growing in all again in that dangerous bastion, the church that threatens family values, the church that wants to undermine the authority of the Father, the church that has half forgotten the Creator in its pagan worshiping of the creation, the church that those right-wing radio ministries have warned us about, this church of bleeding heart liberalism, some thinly veiled front for leftist politics, of homosexual propaganda. I like it here. The church that tells you you won't be going to hell no matter what you do in this life. And the church that often leaves the first few pews open for the diversity we're sure is going to show up. We're open to it. The church of practicing witches whose very assertion they don't believe in any devil confirms they must be accomplishing some of his work. And the church that sings carefully, not sure if there are any words we can totally subscribe to and not be questioning ourselves tomorrow or in the next worship committee meeting. The church that is not sure if there is in fact anything that we can celebrate with that passion and abandon those other churches hold for Jesus the Savior, Son of God the Father. Although something lurks in us, we might be missing out on some of their fun. It is that search for ecstasy, enlightenment, and other things, including free coffee, which is often the only thing whose origins we don't question, that brings us together. This is my church, and I'm a zealot. This is the church that says to everyone, you're not only welcome, but we need you and your creative input in our continuing, dynamic, and evolving culture. Diversity is a strength, a survival mechanism we believe in. We face the challenge of weighing new and ancient wisdom in our search for guidance in this life, as well as the continuing creation of our own mythology. It's not an easy job. And we come together in meetings like this to offer each other ourselves for sustenance. Now that is about all I had to say. But this great mentor of mine, an African-American minister, a friend and mentor, used to say about this point, he'd say, well, that's about all I had to say. But I'm not going to stop now. And, whoa, okay, now we got something happening. I want to say this. I got an email. I hope this doesn't sound like a disclaimer or too defensive, but I got an email recently, and this is the third time I have read, and I'm going to admit to you that I ran back at five minutes before the service. I ran back to the coffee hour to find my book, to read that thing that I just recited to you. So I have it memorized. Isn't that something? I've done it a few times. People think he's just standing there inventing this, but I thought about that ahead of time. I did. Have you found that? I wonder, Buffy. You've probably found that if you stand up and you're not holding a piece of paper, people think you haven't put any thought into it or something. The audience has so little idea how much rehearsal it takes. So I got this email that was very polite, but it was this is the third time. Once was an angry confrontation at coffee hour, but. This woman said the same thing other people have said. In my defense, I'd like to say I think people have not heard exactly what I said. She said, well, I was there with my Presbyterian relatives, and they laughed, but I thought they could be offended by that, and it's important. I think it's important for us to remember we should not make fun of other people's religions. Well, I didn't think that I did, other than that I said those right-wing radio ministries, and it might have sounded a little derogatory. Maybe it was just my delivery. But the point was, we look at all these other churches, and they appear to be having a great time. They're clapping their hands and celebrating and born again and washed in the blood and, I don't know, Jesus, my personal Savior, and such things. And we wonder, what do we have to get as excited about as these people who are praying to a God to intervene in the French Open or the football game or something? And I don't personally believe that, but
I know that that's very important to some people, and I honor that, but I would think that is not us, usually. If you're a visitor and we're even wondering what the two U's are, I'm sure we have a pamphlet for you back here. I want to say that I would, although I'm telling it as a joke, it's perfect. It's absolutely serious. I say, you won't be going to hell no matter what you do in this life. That's a basic tenet of the Universalist side of our Unitarian Universalism. I started at the Universalist Church in Norwell, Massachusetts, at Assinippikona, and I remember leaving that church when I was maybe 6 or 7, and my dad, taller than I am now, with his deep voice saying, we Universalists don't believe that a loving God would, I guess hell had come up in the service, that a loving God would sentence us to an eternity of damnation. That was a liberating thing to find out as a kid. And I think that's the kind of gift we give to our young people, to question this bombardment of stuff that even comes to them in public school, although there's supposed to be some separation of church and state. These ideas are just out there all the time. And for us to say we don't exactly subscribe to some of that is an important thing. I also said, here's the point. That I was saying, Jesus the Savior, our personal Savior. I don't personally subscribe to that idea or believe in that, or the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, the Trinity. We could remember that not we, but our ancestors, our predecessors, back there in 300-something AD, I think it was 345, at the Council of Nicaea, we lost the vote. See, we for a little while before that, the Holy Roman Empire, the Catholic Church now, the Christian Church, had been Unitarian. But at this vote at the Council of Nicaea, that other group voted for that very poetic, I suppose, idea of Father, Son, Holy Ghost, the Trinity, and they won, and we became the heretics. Through the Dark Ages and for centuries, this is a life and death matter, and forced conversions and all kinds of things, until a visionary king in Romania says, let's stop killing each other over religious differences, and declares a freedom of religion that is now what we know brought about all these Protestant denominations and everything else. And our country really was founded by people who believed that exactly. And for now, anyway, I hope we meet with relative abandon, presuming freedom of religion and separation of church and state, although there is a well-funded assault on all of that. We might just know, not to be discouraging, people, and I even grant some of them good hearts, some of them, that they think that we would be better off if we were a Christian nation, and they even called us a Christian nation, and we should get rid of all those other people, apparently. It sounds dangerous to me. So the idea that we don't believe in anything, I hear this sometimes, and we love to come to church on Sunday and say what Garrison Keillor joked about Unitarians the night before on Prairie Home Companion. The idea that Unitarian Universalists don't believe in anything. Oh, that's the church, you don't have to believe in any. Well, we don't have to, but the idea that we don't stand for much of anything aggravates me. And I'm quick to say, well, we have our 7 principles, the dignity and worth of every person, and free search for faith, and our encouragement of each other on our separate but together spiritual journeys, and what's in there? Democracy, that's a little antithetical to some religions right there. We don't have a pope. We don't have a big book up here with all the answers. We are making it up as we go along, as I joked about, with all the highest intent and responsibility we can put to it. We are making this liturgy, this theology, this philosophy that will guide us and heal us. Then there's a couple more. The goal of peace and world community. I have some more to say about that a little later, if I haven't taken too long now. And the 7th principle, the one I get most excited about, the interdependent web of all life. These are, not radical is probably not the right word, but revolutionary and important principles that we stand for. We'd like to think that most everybody could get together on those ideas and have maybe a Pentecost in a different way, a coming back together of everybody in a place where we say we don't all have to think alike to worship together. That's and we have signs that you can get that say that, and signs that say we have questions for your answers and things like that. That's how we work. So I get my inspiration from all of you, and I travel around. I've been to more than 600 UU churches now. It's taken me 30 years to do that sociological study. So I feel that I know what we stand for, and I'm proud of what we stand for. So no intention to have made fun of any other religion, but ours is different. And if you are new to this at all, and that was of interest to you, we have lots of material about what we stand for and what we represent. And I find that I'm in a community of activists most of the time. I'm usually preaching to the convicted, as I like to say, that many of you many of us, can I say, stood against war at one time or another, and here it is Memorial Day weekend, and I have some more to say about that today. But that can be a bit of a question for us, I think, to not just blindly go on saying rah-rah to war or something. We respect and we honor the people that have made a sacrifice for this country, but many of us stood up against the starting of that war or the carrying on of that war. So we have some other perspectives on this that can be difficult to put together sometimes. So thank you for listening to all of that. I hope that didn't sound too defensive. I promise to talk less later. Even when I don't see a lot of people under 21 in front of me, I like to put a kid's song in a program, because kids' songs are sneaky. They can carry all kinds of values in a kid's song, and it doesn't scare anybody, because it's just a kid's song. You can sing about sharing, and no one calls you a communist and like that. I wrote this song with a bunch of second graders. There's not anybody here in second grade. Gonna be in second grade next year. Used to be in second grade. It was a good year. These kids, we wrote a song together. These kids told me all about the rainforest. And living in Eugene, Oregon, as I did then, I got to tell them I kind of lived in the rainforest. We know how it works. They told me about the animals in the rainforest. There's a lot of animals in the song. And they told me about the 4 levels of the rainforest. I'd never heard that before. The 4 levels. 4. It's in a book, apparently. Some human made that up, the 4 levels. I like to say I think we were thrown out of the Garden of Eden for dividing it into separate fields of study, but that's another sermon. On the ground level, turtles and leopards and snakes live in the shelter the understory makes. The ground is so soft and the air is so clear, with 300 inches of rain every year. Oh, let the rain feed the thirsty ground. Sing me the song of life you sing, such a beautiful sound. You can sing it. Oh, let the rain feed the thirsty ground. Sing me the song of life you sing, such a beautiful sound. And down in the ground, the swing from the limbs of the trees. Oh, let the rain feed the thirsty ground. Sing me the song of life you sing, such a beautiful sound. Now while some of us sing that part, we need some others of us to sing another part that goes, rain come down, rain come down. That's it, rain come down, la la la, rain come down. Oh, let the feed the thirsty ground. Sing me the song of life you sing, such a beautiful sound. And the third verse is high up above, where the toucans fly. They're birds, emergent treetops, reach into the sky. There's more kinds of plants than anyone knows. Look out, there's a sloth hanging by her 3 toes. Oh, let the rain feed the thirsty ground. Sing me the song of life you sing, such a beautiful sound. And about this point, rain come down. I like to put in the pop quiz. I don't have any third graders here, so just shout them out. What were those 4 levels of the rainforest? Anybody know? The ground's a good level, and the canopy, the umbrella of all the trees and all the stuff that likes to grow in the shade of the canopy, the understory. And then the tallest, biggest old trees that stick up through the rest of the canopy, sometimes way above, called the emergent level. That's the 4 levels. And this is my musical memory device. There's the understory, the understory. If you got a low voice, be the understory, the understory. And the ground level, you can be the ground level, the understory. And the ground level, the ground level, canopy, ground level, canopy. Find your level, canopy, the under, the canopy, the emergent, emergent. Oh, there's the ground level and the under, the canopy, emergent, emergent. Oh, there's the ground level and the under, the chorus. Oh, let the rain come down, feed the thirsty ground. Sing me the song of life you sing, such a beautiful sound. Rain come down, rain come down, rain come down. Now what that shows me is there's all this stuff going on all around us, up in the air, down in the ground, down in the water. All these things are working together to keep us going. And one word for that might be harmony. I like that because I'm a musician. The harmony of nature. Kids have heard that. But another word for it just might be peace. And I hope everybody, we're not dismissing kids to go to their to classes today? Yes, okay. Okay, kids don't get to go off and do something more interesting today. Well-behaved, mature kids are welcome to stick around for the whole service, and we hope we'll make it interesting. Thank you for being with us today. I wrote this song awfully quickly. Often I ponder over songs and I rewrite and so on. This song just kind of came out all together. Bombarded, as were you, I'll bet, by news of Somalia, Sudan, and certainly Iraq, Afghanistan, and all the horrors of war that were on the news on this particular day. And I started to write something and thought, I've made this observation before. Just simply to say we're against war is not enough. And what came to me, and this whole song came to me really rather quickly, was that I know people in this abundant and privileged country of ours that live in a war zone in their own heads, in their own families. I am waiting in the silence. I am waiting for the dawn. I am often found in reverence, though from many sources drawn. It is not mine to fight for justice, for it will not be won this day. I am peace, and I am waiting for the lost to find their way. You'll not find me sat in judgment of the vain or of the weak, but I rise to meet the weary with the solace that they seek. Still I have not fed the hungry, nor strewed wealth among the poor. I am peace, and bring but misery, and the patience to endure. I cannot save the suffering from their anger and their pain. Only open doors of insight, so the healing comes again. To the proud I am elusive, to the humble I am near. May the broken rise and look beyond the trappings of their fears. I am found among the seasons, autumn's death and spring's rebirth, as relentless their momentum as the turning of the earth. All are welcome in my presence, for only love can conquer hate. I am peace, and for the harvest I have planted and will wait. I'm old enough to be one U before the U's got together. But I went to school in Rochester, New York, and had a little bit to do with both the Universalist and the Unitarian churches that are still there and flourishing, but was maybe a little too far away from it to realize the draft counseling and the other things that were going on there in the Unitarian church, and couldn't quite come to the idea of being a conscientious objector at the time, at the tail end of the Vietnam conflict, and talked with a lot of people about it, didn't know what to make of it, saying, well, I guess, don't we actually need a police force? People are not perfect and so on. And what I ended up doing was carrying an Army issue electric guitar in the jazz band of the Washington Army Band. So so I was in the service. I went to basic training and all, but I haven't known how to really process the fact that to perhaps grieve for all of that. I know I was privileged to not go to combat and so on, but many of my classmates were, many of my peers were. And during this hour, it's likely that a veteran will take his own life or her own life, mostly his. 22 a day take their own lives. You might have heard on NPR as I was driving here this morning, you might have heard that too, about Dover Air Force Base and how carefully they take the bodies of American soldiers killed, that they take care of them and do the best they can to honor that commitment. And the thousands of Americans that have died. Our wars, though, are pretty well outsourced now. We have corrupt mercenary groups that make a lot of money, are paid to lurk in the midst of these wars now. Private security firms that even protect American soldiers sometimes. It's amazing. We've outsourced war in a way that we can disclaim that. And if you're any student at all of, I don't think this will get me in trouble with you, of Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iraq and so on, you know what corruption goes on, the drugs, the poppy harvest has just quadrupled and has exploded, and the illegal trade in drugs has exploded, and all the corruption that lurks under any good war, the underground economies that go on in trading arms and so on like that. I don't know what to make of the fact that some of my peers are gone, and we've taken a whole new generation of younger people to in, I think, the longest war we've ever carried on here just lately. And it might be worth mentioning that our veterans are just not honored the way I feel that they should be. Veterans hospitals are a story of corruption and of mismanagement and of huge wastes of money and just totally woeful inadequacy to deal with the problem. If 22 people are killing themselves each day over the horrors of war and the lives, the broken lives that they have, the broken spirits they have, we're not doing enough to honor our veterans. Of course, any country that you can point to was probably founded on a war of some sort, and we celebrate the one that separated us from the British, and we decided we were no longer a colony. I think it's in the Massachusetts Constitution. I was going to make sure I checked this out. The dignity and worth of every person. I'm not sure we meant every person back then, but we do now. And Massachusetts being one of the first places to honor gay marriage and equality of rights, and we have pretty good gun laws here. We have a number of things going on in Massachusetts that we might wish went on in the whole United States. So I think many of you might feel the same way about these things, and we wonder, how do we exactly celebrate a Memorial Day? For me, I try to remember the peacemakers as well. And there's a few peacemakers we can think of, from Gandhi to Martin Luther King to so many others, that gave their lives for making a peace in this world. I just marched into Montgomery a couple of months ago on the Selma to Montgomery march. I didn't get there in the beginning, so I wasn't there at the bridge, but I was there at the end of the march. And I realized these are revolutions. The tourists had gone home after the bridge, and now the march was largely African American. And although the march is celebrating the 50th anniversary of the march where Dr. King led the marchers at the bridge, and they were beaten by the police and turned back, and it was the third effort that finally made it there. Although it's a 50th anniversary, the issues are still absolutely immediate. The governor of Alabama came out. We marched up Dexter Avenue, up this hill to the Capitol that's on the top. And on these huge steps, the governor came out and addressed people. And it was pointed out that the governor 50 years ago did not come out. He peeked through the window and escaped out the back door. But the governor was grandiose until the crowd started shouting two things: Medicaid now, Medicaid now. Alabama's, there's some states that don't like Obamacare and are trying to resist the idea of people having health care in this country. One of the few countries that doesn't have few, shall we say, what's that word? I don't. Developed countries, whatever that means. And the governor started, looking a little something, tried to finish what he was saying, and then it turned to restore the vote, restore the vote. The Supreme Court just voted, in its wisdom, voted down this oversight that that was over a number of states that had so egregiously violated the rights of Americans to prevent them from voting, Alabama being one of them. And the Supreme Court had said, well, I guess we don't have to do that anymore. And immediately, the screws are being turned to lock out people. And I was marching with people who were saying, well, my grandmother, we don't even know when she was born. And she doesn't have anything. We can't get her. We've been to all these places, and we can't get her a voter ID card and all that. And I got to shake hands with Martin Luther King III, Dr. Martin Luther King III, who got up and spoke. So the governor, when they were yelling, restore the vote, his handlers turned him around and took him back up the stairs quickly. And then Martin Luther King III says, I got the solution to that voter ID card. Every person in this country is numbered. Every person has a social security number. Put a picture on that card. Oh, that would be too easy. That won't work for the for the people that feel the way they're staying in power and in control is to prevent these people to vote. And we keep finding in their secret communications that's how they think it should go. There are people that fight for liberation and for freedom, for equality, for justice all over this world. When they come to violence being the last resort, but they come to that as a matter of survival, I guess we honor that to some extent, because survival is survival. But we know so much now about how to avoid conflict, how there are other ways, and how it doesn't work. As a matter of fact, so many books, so many pieces of wonderful advice. I'm a great student or a great follower fan of Marshall Rosenberg and his nonviolence books and his nonviolence philosophy. And there's so much more about that. But I know lots of good advice. I know lots of advice about how to live longer, happier, healthier, and I don't necessarily do it. Why is that? I know lots of things we could do to take care of the earth and have the earth be sustainable, have our humanity be sustainable on this earth, and I don't necessarily do it. I must be an addict. I must be alienated. I must be wounded and separated from that very powers that would heal me, to the extent that I am filling that emptiness with any kind of immediate gratification just to hide that pain while we're busy killing God. Now, I don't use the word God in that way, of a bearded old man in the sky. Michael Dowd, longtime friend, if I can brag about that, says God, he likes to keep using the word God, and some of us are not comfortable with that. He says, God is everything you know about nature and science and romance and everything else all put together. God is reality. So if you're out of touch with reality, you're out of touch with God. So in that way, I can use this idea. We're out of touch with the fact that the earth is dying. Not the earth, but the sustainable thing that evolved here to hold us up is crumbling. Humanity is castles built on sand that is eroding away, if we can put it that way. Already the oil companies, amidst their denial that any kind of global warming is happening, they all have plans of how they're going to drill in the Arctic and do things like that once we get that snow and ice out of the way. There are people already planning trips, ships going through the Arctic once we get rid of that ice, and so on and so on. What we like to say now is climate disruption. Climate change is even a bit loaded, and certainly global warming is not it, where this earth, had its hottest winter on record. The northern hemisphere had its hottest winter on record this year, and yet the eastern United States had its coldest winter on record. What happened? The Arctic dumped it all over here, or something weird happened. These are the sorts of things. There's a couple of interesting books about this too. The climate, seasons, harvests are the stuff that have caused wars. More times, great exoduses and refugees everywhere. Wars over that stuff. Is that what's going to happen when we're running out of water and sustainable soil and all? Is that the wars will be about that? I just tried to look up who said this, but I remember somewhere back in the 70s or 80s, a well-known sage said, the wars of the 20th century are about oil. The wars of the 21st century will be about water. And we see that coming true. It's all our personal responsibilities, for one, and our children's job. It will be to heal the earth and each other. But to change the course of humanity, change the course of history, and figure out how we can prevent and heal the wars, prevent the wars before they start, and heal from the wars and the cruelty and the violence, is, I think, the next step in humanity's evolution. And thank you for listening. I'm going to just sing one more song, and we're going to multitask. As we sing this last song, I will invite you to consider and contribute to the work of this church community, this life support system. So we will take the offering as we sing this song. The refrain of this song, the words are in your order of service, but it's also in the Teal hymn book. But if you look it up there, take the written music with a grain of salt, because I do it a little bit differently. And I add 2 verses to it. I took this Russian folk song, and it became the chorus of my song. It doesn't sound too Russian anymore. It sounds a little more like Brazil. But I added 2 verses. So I'll take care of those and be ready with the chorus. My wish for you, as now we part, is for greater peace to fill your heart with dreams as vast as starry space. So hurt and anger know no place. May truth be shared and wounds be healed, and joy for living be revealed. Through every fate and circumstance, may hope lead weary steps to dance. And may your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light, then softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night. May fears be turned with keen insight to wisdom for what's just and right. Where sorrow grows, compassion strong, and pains will pass before too long. May the bounds of our diversity serve a richer harmony. May courage hold your heart so true to smile on love when it smiles on you. And may your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light, then softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night. I'll sing a line, you sing it back, and may your life be as a song. Try it. And may your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light, then softly serenade the stars, then softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night, dancing circles in the night. So it turns out to be a 4-part round, ha ha ha, but I know we can do it in at least 2 parts if you'll self-select. You know who you are. If you can do the second part, I'll show you where it starts rather than one side or the other. And if you're unsure, stick with me. And if you're more adventurous or creative or lost, be part 3 or part 4. And may your life be as a song, resound. And may your life be to sing awake the light, then softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night. And may your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light, then softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night, ever dancing circles in the night, ever dancing circles in the night. When Wisdom was a striking young man, he met a beautiful woman named Love. Now, I'm not really sure who was the man and who was the woman. Maybe they were the same sex. I'd like to keep you, said Wisdom. You can't own me, said Love, but I love you anyway. What would it cost to know you'd always be there? Asked Wisdom. Don't ask such questions, said Love. Just look at the stars. Why? Wisdom pondered. Are they telling us something? Oh, chill out, chided love, which made wisdom happy in a funny sort of way. And so it was that wisdom fell in love with love and thus became truly wise. Let's go in peace. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Do join us for coffee hour and conversation and analysis.